big missing piece in all the conversations around weight loss. Anybody who's been struggling with weight their whole life, if you've been dieting practically your entire life, I'm going to tell you right now that it's not your fault. And it's not that you're not disciplined. And it's not that you don't know what to do. You don't need me here to come on and tell you what to do, what you should eat and what you shouldn't eat. But what's actually happening is you have a nervous system issue. You're locked into what I call protection mode. And that is why it's so important to understand that what's driving this is the nervous system. You've triggered your nervous system to feel unsafe when there's fear. And so we have to unprogram ourselves to feel these emotions fully, to even learn how to manage these emotions, to learn that these emotions are just giving us information.
Welcome back, friends. I'm your host, Sherry Shaban, and with each episode, I am honored to be your coach and guide in the journey to make peace with food, fall in love with fitness, and ultimately yourself. My intention in each episode is to help you release the old story of who you are and step into the one you're always meant to be. We'll challenge conventional diet and fitness culture and understand the importance of tuning out all the shoulds they tell us to do and tuning into our own inner wisdom instead. What you focus on, you create more of. Through these conversations, you'll shift your focus from what you're supposed to be doing to who you want to be, so that health and fitness and ease around food is not just what you do, but who you are. And if you find that this conversation resonates with you today, then I want to invite you to join our free Make Peace with Food Facebook community at myfoodfreedomlifestyle.com, where you can connect with me and my team directly and access all the free trainings and resources we have for you so you can regulate your nervous system and make peace with food. And then also remember to share this episode with someone who you think needs to hear this today. The links are in the show notes. Are you ready to uncover the emotional triggers behind your eating habits and shift from what I call protection mode into safety mode so that you can experience lasting weight release? In this episode of the podcast, I'm diving into emotional eating patterns where I break down the automatic behaviors, those unconscious behaviors that you're not aware of, that are driving the binge eating, the mindless eating, the emotional eating, and even the late night snacking. And I'm going to talk to you today about the psychology of cravings and also share some practical tips to help you regain control over your eating habits by recognizing and addressing these emotional triggers. And this episode is all about empowering you to overcome the diet sabotage that's caused by those unmanaged emotions you're experiencing. And it's so important to understand your emotional triggers if you really want to break free from these unwanted eating habits. And these patterns often come from dysregulated emotions, and they're shaped by life experiences and unconscious beliefs. These are beliefs that you have that you're likely not even aware of. And when you identify these triggers, that's when you can start to unravel these harmful behaviors. And today, and all the times I talk to you about overcoming unwanted eating behaviors, I emphasize the role of the nervous system in all of this and how shifting from protection mode, also known as fight or flight or sympathetic nervous state, into safety mode, also known as rest and digest or parasympathetic, can help you manage your emotions and work towards your weight release goals in such a sustainable way that becomes fun, that becomes easy, and most importantly, that becomes who you are. And so some of the topics we're going to be covering today is understanding emotional eating and recognizing all the patterns that play out in emotional eating. I'm also going to walk you through the 7 steps to help you calm your cravings. And today, specifically, we're going to focus on recognizing your triggers and understanding how your dysregulated emotions are oftentimes the trigger to any unwanted eating behavior, even if that emotion is boredom. If you're listening to today's episode and you feel like food and dieting and weight and body image has completely taken over your life, has complete power over you, I hope this conversation brings you the comfort and inspiration that you're searching for. And remember, you're not alone. Healing is possible. If you've ever felt like you know exactly what to do, but you just can't bring yourself to do the things that you know to do, then I want to invite you to join me during my 3-day Break the Cycle Masterclass, where I'm going to be talking about how to overcome binge eating and emotional eating and how to regulate your nervous system so that you're no longer engaging in these unwanted eating behaviors. And this isn't a 3-day masterclass on weight loss, by the way. This is a 3-day masterclass on understanding how to break free from the cycle that's resulting in the side effect of weight gain. And that's the big difference, because you know this by now, that repeating the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, is called insanity. You know that dieting doesn't work. You know that it's not about hard discipline and getting yourself to be on another plan or hiring a nutritionist to tell you what to eat. You know all the things. Heck, I bet you can even write a book on all the things. But what you do want to uncover is, why is it that you continue to sabotage? Why does it feel like you're always on the wagon or off the wagon? And that's exactly why I'd love for you to join me during this 3-day Break the Cycle Masterclass that I'm giving completely free. Now you can register at sherryshaban.com/break the cycle. Again, sherryshaban.com/break the cycle. Again, it's completely free to join. And the goal during these 3 days together is to uncover why it is that you continue to engage in unwanted eating behaviors, even though you know exactly what to do. sherryshaban.com/break the cycle. All right, now let's get into it.
When you're emotionally eating or binge eating or even nighttime snacking, it may feel like this automatic thing. It may feel like all of a sudden you just kind of find yourself doing it. You may notice that, yes, if you're an emotional eater, you tend to feel a particular emotion. It could be in response to stress. It could be in response to frustration. It could be response to sadness. And you find yourself actually consuming those foods that tend to comfort you. And you'll also notice the same thing happening with nighttime snacking. It may not necessarily be a strong emotion that is very obvious to you. It could even be boredom. It could be a feeling of loneliness, or just a feeling like you need to change things up. And then you find yourself sitting in front of the TV and snacking at night. And so what I want to talk to you about today, because over these last days, I've been having a conversation with you about the 7 steps to calm the cravings. If you are an emotional eater, if you are a binge eater, if you are a nighttime snacker, if you're a mindless eater, if you've been a person who's been dieting for a really long time and you know exactly what to do, but you're just not doing these things, or you're noticing that your emotional eating patterns or your nighttime snacking patterns are what continue to sabotage your efforts, then these 7 steps are so important in breaking these patterns. And what I wanted to talk to you about today is step number 5, which is recognizing your triggers. We don't just accidentally kind of find ourselves in that same pattern. You see, here's the thing about these patterns that you may not be aware of. It's almost like they are a downloaded program. They actually can go step by step by step by step, and you can see them step by step by step by step if you actually take the time to create the awareness around them. They actually start to look like a movie. There's something that happens that will trigger you. It could be a conversation that you heard, or it could be something that you watched. It could be something that you smelt. It could be something that you actually touched or maybe even tasted, because our triggers come from our 5 senses. And once you learn this trigger, you're going to notice that there is a particular dysregulated emotion it brings up. And the dysregulated emotion is an important thing to recognize. What it means to be dysregulated is to not be able to manage it or to regulate it in a way that is healthy for you. So any emotion that you have a hard time sitting in, that you tend to avoid, that you tend to want to distract yourself from, that's a dysregulated emotion. Or it could even be an emotion that's really, really big, that tends to result in a big response that could impact your relationships, that could impact your work environment, that could impact different things in your life. It may even get you to give up on some really important things in your life. That's a dysregulated emotion. And you're going to notice that dysregulated emotion, because it's uncomfortable for you to sit in. Maybe you've never even learned how to manage these emotions. Maybe you weren't given the tool as a child to manage these emotions. Maybe growing up, it was said to you that sitting in these emotions was bad and it was a form of weakness and you have to toughen up because life is tough. That could have been a reason why you have a hard time managing these emotions, or maybe you even endured a very traumatic event where you were young and you had a hard time sitting in that actual physical pain of the emotion and you needed a coping mechanism. And regardless of what it is, what I do want you to do is just create the awareness, not have any judgment around why you're doing the things that you're doing, because the conversations we've been having, which, by the way, I have in the link here below. I have the link here in the comments below for you, which is the Calm the Cravings ebook that I've put together for you. It's got the 7 steps to help you overcome your cravings, to help you overcome the emotional eating and binge eating. And what we're talking about, more importantly, is the nervous system. And it's a big, big, big missing piece in all the conversations around weight loss. Anybody who's been struggling with weight their whole life, if you've been dieting practically your entire life and you've been gaining more than 10 pounds and trying to lose more than 10 pounds, and this has been this constant yo-yo and this constant roller coaster of weight loss and weight gain, I'm going to tell you right now that it's not your fault. And it's not that you're not disciplined. And it's not that you don't know what to do. You don't need me here to come on and tell you what to do, what you should eat and what you shouldn't eat. I mean, you can find that information anywhere online. But what's actually happening is you have a nervous system issue. You're locked into what I call protection mode, and you are easily triggered. And a trigger is exactly that. Think about a loaded gun. You have a loaded gun. You've got this weapon. There's this thing that can potentially create harm. There's this thing that is ready to fire. And as soon as you pull that trigger, boom, it goes. And so your trigger is kind of the same thing. You have this big ball of emotion and thoughts and beliefs and unconscious beliefs that have accumulated over time, that also have attached certain behaviors to, certain coping mechanism to. And anytime something triggers that, boom, it's off. And that is exactly what I want you to uncover. Because if you can find what that trigger is, then you can start to interrupt the pattern. And if you interrupt the pattern, you're going to see this whole thing unraveling. And that's exactly what happens. Within 1 month of starting to identify your triggers, this begins to unravel. Because once you become aware, you can't become unaware. That's it. You know exactly what's going on. You're watching this thing play out like a movie. You know what your triggers are. And if you know what your triggers are, now you can start to pull apart this big thing that has been created over time. It is just a software that's been playing. It is a software based on your life experiences, based on past traumas, based on underlying unconscious beliefs, which are beliefs that you're not even aware of. It is also your perception of the world. It is what your thoughts and beliefs are currently. And the more you take this through life, the greater and greater it becomes, and you learn how to trigger it and then attach more thoughts, more emotions, and more belief systems. And it's actually that's driving your unwanted eating behavior. That's why you're emotionally eating. You're not emotionally eating because there's some sort of defect or because you don't know how to handle your emotions. You're emotionally eating because you've built this big wall. You're trying to protect this thing. You have these unconscious beliefs that if you come close to this thing that feels very, very uncomfortable, there may be some harm. There may be some potential for pain. There may be some potential for needing to protect yourself and to survive this in some way, because there's a potential risk of perishing. And again, everything I'm sharing with you is very, very unconscious. And that is why it's so important to understand that what's driving this is the nervous system. You've triggered your nervous system to feel unsafe when there's fear. And when there's fear, then we have to do something with that emotion. We can't sit in it, because if we sit in it, something really, really bad is going to happen. We've never actually allowed ourselves to fully ride it out to the end to know that this is an emotion. It's a wave that just passes through. And so we have to unprogram ourselves to feel these emotions fully, to even learn how to manage these emotions, to learn that these emotions are just giving us information. Once you learn that sadness, fear, anger, and joy is an emotion that gives you a message, You learn how to regulate your emotions. You learn how to unravel that, how to release traumas, how to sit in your truth right now, how to uncover your unconscious beliefs and release them. You'll learn how to regulate your nervous system. And when you regulate your nervous system, you learn that it's actually all about thoughts and emotions, and that your diet is no longer about what you're eating and how much you're moving, but your diet is actually very much about what you're feeling. And your thoughts and your emotions get to decide which nervous system state you're in. In fact, you know exactly which nervous system state you're in if you're watching your emotions. And if you're in protection mode, which is where the body favors fat storage, where it's going to become very stubborn to release any fat, regardless of all your efforts and your exercise and your dieting, you'll notice that your emotions are fear and anxiety and doubt and shame and blame and guilt. And if you're feeling any of these emotions, you're in protection mode. And if you're feeling calm and appreciation and gratitude and peace and joy and fulfillment and excitement and acceptance, you're in safety mode. And so how much % of your time do you think you're spending in these emotions? And without judgment, if you can create this awareness, you can start to move through healing. And so again, grab this workbook and start to read through it, because I'm going to talk to you about the nervous system. I'm going to walk you through these 7 steps so that you calm the cravings. And then I also have for you some power habits. These are habits that you can start to implement in your day-to-day, following what I call the rule of addition before subtraction, where you add in habits instead of stopping things and restricting your things and triggering your nervous system to feel unsafe and then get stubborn. These actually are a way for you to peacefully and calmly and with ease move towards your goal. So I'm going to come back here again tomorrow, and I'm going to be talking to you about step number 6. And before we do that, let me know, how did this resonate with you? We're learning to recognize your triggers, learning to really start to play out this movie that's happening in your mind. Notice what are the thoughts and emotions that made me feel this way? And then how did that lead to behavior? So instead of berating yourself and judging yourself, just seeing it play out and learning how then to unlock the patterns. I'll see you soon.